I am Garrett Hawthorne. I am 72 years old, and I have learned the hard way that unconditional love is a very expensive vulnerability. I handed my daughter and her husband the keys to a $10 million coastal estate, a sanctuary I built with my own hands. In exchange, they handed me a cardboard box and a physical assault that left me bruised in the dirt. They look at me and see a senile old man, a gardener whose only value is pulling weeds. They have no idea that the global aerospace conglomerate they are trying to defraud, the very source of the loan they are stealing, was founded by me in the shed they call a dump. They think they have won the lottery. They don't know that by tomorrow morning, their assets will be frozen, their luxury cars will be repossessed, and I will be the sole owner of their debt. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. The morning sun hit the petals of the dendrobium orchids I was pruning, casting long, sharp shadows across the manicured lawn of the cliffside manor. I had spent 3 decades perfecting this soil, understanding the salinity of the air, coaxing life out of the rocky Florida coast. It was precise work. It required patience. "Dad, for God's sake, move!" The voice cracked through the serenity like a whip. I didn't flinch, but I felt the familiar tightening in my chest. I turned slowly. Kirsten was standing on the terracotta patio, her phone pressed to her ear, her free hand gesturing wildly at me. She was 42, dressed in a power suit that cost more than my first car, but she wore it like armor. "I'm on a call, Dad. The investors," she hissed, lowering the phone for a second to glare at me. "Go back to the shack. You look like a vagrant." I looked down at my canvas trousers. They were stained with loam and fertilizer, honest dirt. I live here, Kirsten," I said softly. "Not now, you don't. The potential buyers are pulling into the driveway in 3 minutes. If they see a senile old man wandering the grounds, it kills the vibe. Go." She turned her back on me, returning to her call, her voice instantly switching to a sugary, synthetic pitch. "Yes, absolutely, Mr. Sterling. The property value is projected to double." I stood there, the shears heavy in my hand. It wasn't the words that hurt anymore. It was the ease with which she said them, the muscle memory of cruelty. A heavy hand clamped onto my shoulder. I smelled the cologne before I saw him, a thick cloud of musk and expensive scotch, masking the scent of a man who hadn't done a day of physical labor in his life. "Garrett, buddy," Nolan said. He was squeezing too hard, his fingers digging into my clavicle. "We talked about this. Optics." Nolan was 45, with the soft, manicured hands of a mediocre con artist. He flashed a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I'm tending the orchids, Nolan. Camilla loved these orchids." "Camilla is gone, Garrett," Nolan said, his voice dropping to a patronizing purr. "And we need this sale. The tech startup needs capital. You want Kirsten to be happy, right? You want to support the family?" "I have supported this family," I said, pulling away from his grip. "I paid for the wedding. I paid for the startup that failed. I paid for the condo." Nolan laughed, a dry, dismissive bark. "Pocket change, old-timer. We're talking real wealth now. This deal, this is the big leagues. Now be a good sport and head to the guest cottage. Don't come out until the Bentley is gone." I retreated. I didn't argue. I walked the stone path toward the guest cottage, which was, in reality, my old engineering workshop. It was a corrugated steel structure hidden behind a line of palm trees, the place where I had spent nights inventing the atmospheric water generators that now hydrated half of sub-Saharan Africa. To them, it was a shed, To me, it was the only place that still made sense. I didn't go inside immediately. I circled back through the heavy foliage, watching from the shadows of a large banyan tree. The black Bentley rolled up the gravel drive. It was polished to a mirror finish. A couple stepped out. Actors. I knew they were actors because I recognized the woman from a local car dealership commercial I'd seen on TV. Kirsten and Nolan greeted them with theatrical enthusiasm. "Welcome! Welcome to the Hawthorne Estate!" Nolan boomed, extending his hand. "It's breathtaking," the actor playing the buyer said, scanning the horizon. "And the privacy?" "Total seclusion," Kirsten lied effortlessly. "We've already relocated the previous resident, my father. He's moving to a facility that can better handle his advanced dementia." My blood ran cold. Dementia. That was the narrative they were spinning. "Is he dangerous?" the woman asked, playing her part perfectly. "Confused, mostly," Nolan sighed, putting on a brave face. "Forgetful. He leaves the stove on, wanders around yelling at invisible people. It was a hard decision, but for his own safety." They were erasing me. They weren't just selling the house. They were selling my sanity to justify the theft. I stepped out from behind the tree. "I don't have dementia," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried over the lawn. The group froze. The actors looked confused, their script broken. Kirsten's face went white, then a blotchy, furious red. "Dad!" she shrieked. "I am the owner of this property," I said, walking toward them. "These two are my guests, and this house is not for sale." Nolan moved fast. For a man who hated exercise, he covered the ground between us with surprising speed. He grabbed my arm, spinning me around. "You ruin everything," he hissed in my ear. "Get back to the shed. Unhand me, Nolan." "No. You're going inside and you're staying there." He shoved me. It wasn't a gentle guide. It was a forceful, two-handed push to the chest. I stumbled back. My heel caught on a sprinkler head. I went down hard. My hip slammed into the manicured grass, a sharp bolt of pain shooting up my spine. The actors gasped. "Oh my God," the woman said. Kirsten didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't run to help me up. She stomped over, standing above me, blocking out the sun. "Look what you did!" she screamed, spit flying from her mouth. "You clumsy, selfish old man! You're embarrassing us!" "Kirsten," I wheezed, trying to push myself up. "Stay down," she yelled. "Just stay down. You're trash, Dad. You're just trash cluttering up our lives. Go to the trash heap where you belong." Nolan turned to the actors, forcing a laugh. "See? The episodes are getting worse. Violent outbursts, falling down. I'm so sorry you had to see this." The actors looked at each other, uncomfortable, then nodded and retreated toward the Bentley. "We'll call you." As the car drove away, the facade dropped completely. Nolan kicked the dirt near my face. "You just cost us a buyer, Garrett," he spat. "Get into the shed. If you come out again, I'll call the state and have you committed tonight." I swear to God. I waited until they stormed back into the main house. I picked myself up, dusting the grass from my trousers. The pain in my hip was a dull throb, but the pain in my chest, the heartbreak, was gone. It had been replaced by a cold, metallic clarity. I walked to the shed. I didn't limp. Inside, the air smelled of ozone and machine oil. It was cluttered with prototypes, blueprints, and half-assembled drones. To the untrained eye, it looked like a hoarder's nest. To me, it was a command center. I walked to the back wall, pushed aside a hanging tarp, and revealed a heavy steel door. I placed my palm against the scanner. Identity confirmed. Garrett Hawthorne. Clearance level Alpha. The door hissed open. I stepped into the climate-controlled server room. I sat down at the triple-monitor workstation. I wasn't the gardener anymore. I was the founder of Titan Vanguard. I pulled up the internal security feed from the main house. I had installed hidden cameras and microphones in every room 3 months ago, right after Camilla passed, when I first suspected Nolan's ambition. On the screen, they were in the kitchen. Kirsten was opening a bottle of wine, my wine, a 1982 Bordeaux. "He's a liability," Nolan was saying, pacing the kitchen island. "We can't wait for a buyer. We need the liquidity now. The Cayman deal closes in 48 hours. "So what do we do?" Kirsten asked, taking a large gulp of wine. "He won't sign the deed." "He already did," Nolan said, a smug grin spreading across his face. "Remember the insurance forms last week? The ones for his health coverage?" Kirsten's eyes went wide. "You slipped it in?" "Power of attorney, full control. I filed it this morning electronically. As far as the county is concerned, I am Garrett Hawthorne's legal guardian." "Oh my God, Nolan," Kirsten breathed, a smile breaking through her stress. "You're a genius." "Better than that," Nolan said. "I've already approved the sale. I sold the house." "To who?" "To us. Well, to Nebula Holdings, a shell company I registered in Delaware. Sold it for $1. And 10 minutes ago, I used the new deed to secure a $5 million emergency line of credit from Sovereign Capital Bank." I watched the screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Sovereign Capital. A mid-sized lender specializing in high-risk bridge loans. $5 million? Kirsten gasped. "Wire hits tomorrow morning. We take the cash, transfer it to the offshore accounts, and by the time the old man realizes the house is sold, we'll be in Zurich." "What about him?" Kirsten asked, looking toward the window. "Sunset Meadows," Nolan said. "The state-run nursing home off the highway. I already called them. The van comes at 8 a.m. They'll take him. He'll be medicated and out of our hair forever." "Trash heap," Kirsten giggled. "He really is trash." I turned off the audio. I had heard enough. I reached for the secure satellite phone on the desk. I dialed a number that only 3 people in the world possessed. "Titan Vanguard," a voice answered instantly. Crisp. Professional. "Blake," I said. There was a pause. "Garrett, sir? We haven't heard from you in months. Is everything all right?" "No, Blake, it's not." I looked at the screen where my daughter was toasting to my destruction. "Activate protocol, Camilla." "Sir, are you sure? That's the nuclear option." "They pushed me, Blake. They put hands on me. They forged my signature. And they just confessed to wire fraud and elder abuse on 4K video." "Understood," Blake said. His tone shifted from concerned friend to wartime consigliere. "I'm readying the legal team. What are your orders?" "Nolan secured a loan from Sovereign Capital. $5 million. It clears tomorrow morning." "I can stop it, sir. I can have the fraud department freeze it." "No," I said. "Let it clear. Sir, I want them to see the money. I want them to hold it. I want them to believe they have won. And then, Blake, I want you to buy the debt." Blake Cunningham was not just a CEO. He was a forensic accountant with a killer instinct. While I sat in the shed, watching the sun go down over the empire my daughter thought she had stolen, Blake was at work. 2 hours later, my monitor pinged. A secure video link opened. Blake looked tired but sharp, sitting in his office on the 60th floor of the Titan Tower in Miami. "It's worse than we thought, Garrett," Blake said, pulling up a schematic on the shared screen. Nolan isn't just an opportunist. He's been planning this for a year. Nebula Holdings isn't just a shell, it's part of a network. He's got accounts set up in Cyprus, Malta, and the Caymans. He's laundering the loan, I said. Exactly. He knows that a direct transfer of $5 million triggers federal flags, so he's going to tumble it. Tumble it? He's using a crypto exchange service. The moment the sovereign capital money hits his account, it's programmed to auto-buy $5 million in a stablecoin, route it through a mixer in Malta, and deposit it into his Cayman account as consulting fees. Once it hits the mixer, it's gone, untraceable. I leaned back. This was the false lead I hadn't anticipated. Nolan was incompetent at business, but apparently he was a savant at theft. Can we intercept it? I asked. The window is tight, sir. We're talking milliseconds. If we buy the debt after, the money leaves sovereign capital but before it hits the crypto exchange, we can freeze the assets. But we need the specific routing key for his crypto wallet to prove intent to defraud immediately. Without that key, the bank might hesitate to freeze the account, and the money will fly. We need a man on the inside, I muttered. Nolan doesn't have a team, sir. He fired everyone last week to scrub his tracks. Everyone? His executive assistant, Nina, let go on Tuesday. Security escorted her out. I remembered Nina, a quiet girl, sharp eyes. Nolan treated her like a servant. Find her, Blake. Bring her in. Nina sat in the back of Blake's limousine, looking terrified. Her eyes darted around the plush leather interior. Blake held up a tablet with my face on it. Mr. Hawthorne? She whispered. I thought Nolan said you were senile, trash. I finished for her. I've heard the reviews, Nina. Listen to me carefully. Nolan is trying to steal $5 million. He's trying to disappear. He fired me for bringing him the wrong coffee, Nina said, her voice trembling with suppressed rage. He screamed at me in the lobby, called me useless. He calls everyone useless, Nina. It's his projection. Did he manage the crypto wallet setup himself? He tried. Nina let out a bitter laugh. He couldn't figure out the two-factor authentication. He made me set it up on his burner phone. He thinks he wiped it. Did you wipe it? Nina reached into her purse and pulled out a small black notebook. I wrote down the seed phrases and the private keys, just in case he tried to blame me for missing funds later. I wanted insurance. Nina, I said, smiling for the first time that day. You just became the most valuable employee in Titan Vanguard history. Blake, get those codes. The sun rose over the Atlantic, painting the sky in violent shades of orange and purple. Inside the main house, the mood was electric. I watched on the monitors. Nolan was pacing the living room, wearing a silk robe, checking his phone every 10 seconds. Kirsten was on the sofa, scrolling through luxury real estate listings in Zurich. It's 8:59, Nolan said, sweating. Come on. The van is here, Kirsten said, looking out the window. The Sunrise Haven van. Ignore it. Let the orderlies handle the old man. Focus on the money. On my screen, the bank interface flickered. Transaction pending. 5,000 mojas. Yes, Nolan screamed, punching the air. We are rich. We are free. Transfer it, Kirsten yelled. Move it now. Nolan tapped the screen. Initiating transfer to the exchange. Executing. I spoke into my headset. Now, Blake. In the Titan Vanguard server room, Blake hit the enter key. Transaction intercept. Debt purchase agreement executed. Creditor update. Sovereign Capital. Titan Vanguard Solutions. Status. Collateral integrity breach detected. Action. Immediate freeze. Inside the villa, Nolan's phone beeped. A harsh, dissonant error tone. Error. Account frozen. Creditor hold. What? Nolan stared at the phone. What the hell is this? What's wrong? Kirsten stood up. It says frozen. It says creditor hold. It didn't go through. Try again. He tapped furiously. Access denied. It's a glitch, Nolan stammered, his face going pale. It has to be a glitch. The bank system is crashing. My phone rang in the shed. It was Blake. Got him. The money is trapped in the transit account. We own the note, Garrett. And since he tried to launder it, we have him on attempted international wire fraud. Let them stew for an hour, I said. Let the panic set in. Then, have the bank tell them who their new creditor is. Nolan spent the next hour screaming at bank representatives. I listened to every word. I demand to speak to the manager. My money is missing. Finally, he got a senior VP on the line, a man Blake had personally briefed. Mr. Vance, the VP's voice came over the speakerphone. There is no glitch. The funds were frozen because your loan was called. Called? I just got it. Who called it? Your creditor. The debt was sold on the secondary market at 9:01 a.m. Who? Nolan shrieked. Who bought it? A private equity firm, Titan Vanguard Solutions. Nolan froze. He looked at Kirsten. Titan Vanguard? That's a Fortune 500 company? Why would they buy my loan? Maybe they want the house, Kirsten whispered. It's prime real estate. We have to go there, Nolan said, scrambling to get dressed. We have to fix this. We'll offer them a deal. We'll give them the house if they let us keep the cash. What about Dad? Kirsten asked, looking toward the driveway where the nursing home van was still waiting. Leave him, Nolan yelled. Let the orderlies drag him out. We need to get to Titan Tower now. They drove the Maserati like they were fleeing a crime scene, which, technically, they were. I took my truck. I took the back roads. I arrived 10 minutes before them. I entered Titan Tower through the private underground entrance. The security team saluted. Welcome back, Mr. Hawthorne. Good to be back, gentlemen. I took the express elevator to the penthouse suite. Blake was waiting with a team of lawyers and Nina. They're in the lobby, Blake said, glancing at the wall of monitors. They're screaming at the receptionist. I looked at the feed. Nolan was red-faced, slamming his fist on the marble desk. Kirsten was crying, her makeup running. Send them up, I said. And Blake, bring the file. I walked into the boardroom. It was a cavernous space with a 40-foot mahogany table and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. I sat at the head of the table. I wasn't wearing my gardening clothes. I was wearing a charcoal bespoke suit, a crisp white shirt, and the Patek Philippe watch I kept in the vault. I waited. The double doors burst open. Nolan and Kirsten stumbled in, looking small in the vast room. Where is the CEO? Nolan shouted, looking around. We need to speak to... He stopped. Kirsten stopped. They stared at the figure at the end of the table. They stared at the suit. They stared at the face. Dad? Kirsten whispered. The word didn't sound like a question. It sounded like a hallucination. Nolan blinked, his brain misfiring. Garrett? What? What are you doing here? How did you get past security? Sit down, I said. My voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The acoustics of the room carried it with terrifying precision. It was the voice of the man who built this building. I said, sit down. They collapsed into the chairs at the far end of the table. "This is a mistake," Nolan stammered, trying to regain his footing. "We're here to see the owners of Titan Vanguard. We have a business dispute." "There is no mistake, Nolan," I said. "I am Titan Vanguard." Silence. Absolute, suffocating silence. "No," Kirsten shook her head. "That's impossible. You're a gardener. You fix sprinklers." "I am an aerospace engineer, Kirsten. I founded this company in 1985. I stepped down as public CEO 10 years ago to care for your mother, but I never sold my shares. I own 51% of this building, this city block, and the bank you tried to defraud." Nolan looked like he was going to vomit. You have money?" "I have empires, Nolan. Plural." "Then why?" Kirsten cried, standing up, her face twisting into a mask of betrayal. "See, why did you make us live like that? The budget condo? The used cars? You let me work at a diner." "I wanted to see if you could build character," I said coldly. "I wanted to know if you loved me, or if you just loved what I could give you. I got my answer yesterday when you shoved me into the dirt." "We were desperate," Nolan yelled. "We needed the money. If you had just given us a loan." "I did give you a loan," I said. $5 million, this morning." Nolan's eyes widened. You bought the debt." "I am your creditor, Nolan, which means you don't owe the bank. You owe me." I motioned to Blake. He stepped forward and slid a thick file across the polished table. "Inside that folder," I said, "are transcripts of your conversations in my kitchen, the video of you forging my signature, the logs of your attempt to launder the money through Malta, and the affidavit from Nina detailing your crypto scheme." Nolan looked at Nina, who was standing by the door. She offered him a small, icy wave. "You set us up," Nolan whispered. "I gave you a rope," I corrected. "You tied the noose. Now we have a problem. You owe me $5 million. The payment is due immediately." "We don't have it," Kirsten sobbed. "You know we don't have it." "Then I have two options," I said, holding up two fingers. "Option A, I hand this file to the FBI. Wire fraud, money laundering, elder abuse. You'll do 15 years in federal prison, minimum." Kirsten wailed, a high, broken sound. "Option B," I continued. "You work it off." Nolan looked up, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "Work it off? Like, here? In the company?" I laughed. It was a dark, dry sound. "No, Nolan, you aren't qualified to sweep the floors of this building. I have a different facility in mind." "Sunrise Haven," I said. Kirsten froze. The nursing home? The very one you tried to check me into this morning. I own that facility too, as it turns out. It's a charitable write-off. But it's understaffed. They need orderlies. They need cleaners." "No," Nolan shook his head. "No way. I am not changing bedpans." "Then enjoy prison," I said, reaching for the phone. "The FBI office is 3 blocks away. They can be here in 5 minutes." "Wait!" Kirsten screamed. "We'll do it! We'll do it!" "Excellent," I said. "Here are the terms. You will work at Sunrise Haven for 1 year. Minimum wage. Every cent of your paycheck will be garnished to pay back the interest on your debt. You will live in the employee dorms, which are, I admit, significantly smaller than your condo. You surrender the Maserati, the Rolexes, and the designer clothes today." "This is slavery," Nolan hissed. "This is mercy," I snapped, slamming my hand on the table. The sound made them jump. "Mercy is what I am giving you. Justice would be letting you rot in a cell. Sign the papers." They signed. They thought it was a game. They thought they could slack off. They learned quickly. The head nurse at Sunrise Haven, a woman named Mrs. Higgins, ran the facility like a boot camp. She didn't care about their former lives. She only cared that the floors were mopped and the patients were fed. I visited 3 months later. I didn't announce myself. I watched from the security monitors in the manager's office. Nolan was in hallway C. He was wearing gray scrubs that were 2 sizes too big. He was on his hands and knees, scrubbing a scuff mark off the linoleum. He looked thinner. The bloat of alcohol and rich food was gone, replaced by the gaunt look of exhaustion. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't scheming. He was just working. I found Kirsten in the cafeteria. She was feeding an elderly man with Parkinson's. Her hair was pulled back in a severe bun, no makeup. The man knocked the spoon from her hand, splattering pea soup on her scrubs. In the past, Kirsten would have screamed. She would have stormed out. Now she just closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and picked up the spoon. "It's okay, Mr. Henderson," she said. Her voice was flat, tired, but not cruel. "Let's try again." I watched her wipe his chin. It wasn't done with love, but it was done with duty. It was a start. 6 months passed. I sat in my study at the Cliffside Manor. The house was quiet, peaceful, but it felt empty. Protocol Camilla was complete. The villains were punished. The debt was secured. But I looked at the photo of Camilla on my desk. "Promise me," she had said. "When they have nothing left, give them a chance to be something else." I drove to Sunrise Haven. I found them in the break room. It was a small, windowless closet smelling of stale coffee. They were sitting on plastic chairs, eating sandwiches wrapped in wax paper. They stood up when I entered. They didn't look defiant. They looked defeated. "Mr. Hawthorne," Nolan said, looking at the floor. "The floors in Wing B are done." "Sit down," I said. I sat opposite them. I pulled a yellow, sticky note from my pocket. It was wrinkled, stained with a smear of red lipstick. It was the note Kirsten had left on the fridge the day she tried to evict me. "Welcome to the trash heap." I placed it on the table. Kirsten stared at it. Her face crumpled. Tears, real tears, not the crocodile tears she used to cry, spilled down her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Dad, I'm so sorry." "For the money?" I asked. "No," she shook her head. "For this." She touched the note. "For treating you like a thing. I see them here, the patients. Their families dump them and never come back. And I realize, that's what I did. I became the thing I hate." Nolan stayed silent, but he nodded. His arrogance had been scrubbed away by bleach and ammonia. I flipped the note over. On the back, I had written 2 words in black ink. "Debt paid." Kirsten read it. She looked up, confused. "What?" "The year isn't over," Nolan said. "We still owe $4 million. The debt is paid," I said. "Financially, you are clear. I am forgiving the loan." "Why?" Nolan asked, his voice cracking. "Because you learned the value of work," I said. "And because my wife believed in second chances, even when I didn't." I stood up. "You are free to go. You can leave right now. But the Maserati is gone. The condo is gone. You have to start over." "Where do we go?" Kirsten asked, panic rising in her voice. "That's up to you," I said. "But if you want, there is a job opening here, the administrator position. It pays a decent wage, hard work, but honest." Kirsten looked at Nolan. They exchanged a look I hadn't seen between them before. Not conspiracy. Partnership. "We'll stay," Kirsten said. "We need the job." "Good," I said. I walked to the door. I paused and looked back. "And Kirsten, Yes, Dad? Sunday dinner is at 6 no? Don't be late and bring a side dish. You're buying. I drove the old truck back to the coast. The engine hummed a steady rhythm. The sun was setting, turning the ocean into a sheet of hammered gold. I wasn't just a gardener. I wasn't just a billionaire. I was a father who had done the hardest thing a parent can do. I had let my children fall so they could learn how to stand up. I pulled into the driveway of the estate. The orchids were blooming. The air smelled of salt and victory. I smiled. You were right, Camilla, I whispered to the empty passenger seat. They just needed a little heavy lifting. By tomorrow morning, they would be scrubbing floors again. But this time, they would be doing it for a paycheck they earned, not a fortune they stole. And that made all the difference in the world. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.